Hey there, welcome in. It is time for a special edition. Call it what you want. Emergency podcast, 3 guys before the game. Bob Huggins' resignation as West Virginia University's head basketball coach. 3 guys before the game. We'll look into it, talk about it, what's it all mean, and where do things go from here on in. 3 guys brought to us by the Burdett Camping Center, the only warranty forever RV dealer in all of West Virginia. By GoMart, go for good times. Go for GoMart. By Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, and efficient for 25 years. And by Lou Wendell Marine Sales in St. Albans. They do sell family fun. Visit LouWendellMarineSales.com. And a reminder to you that the premier, done deal, number 1 pontoon boat dealer in the state of West Virginia is Lou Wendell Marine Sales. By the sales, by the service, they're the ones when it comes to pontoon boats. They feature the Avalon pontoon boats, considered the best in America. They are manufactured 100% right here in the United States. So check it out. 'Tis the season. 4 decades, family-owned, LouWendellMarineSales.com. 3 guys also brought to us by our friends at GoMart, with a reminder to you, tons of reward prizes available here in this month with their Cryptid Quest game. You buy certain items, and as a result, you receive extra bonus points to get you free or money off gas, food, and things like that. Big time. So get that rewards card at gomart.com/3guys. Gomart.com/3guys. Triple points on some of that stuff at Gomart. All right. So it is Sunday morning, and we are recording. And obviously, we never thought that we would be in here on a Sunday morning. But obviously, the events that started to take place on Friday night in Pittsburgh in the course of pretty much 26 hours. Bob Huggins is charged and arrested for DUI. And in the course of that 26-hour time frame, the police report comes out, and Bob Huggins resigns as West Virginia University's head basketball coach. So it goes beyond saying that there are so many different pieces and now so many different angles that will come off of this, and that's what we're going to talk about. We have not talked at all. We literally just walked in here. We've not talked at all about thoughts and what we're going to say. And obviously, in the course of everything that's happened since Friday night and all day yesterday, and then you think about it and you wake up this morning and you're thinking, did that really happen? And yeah, it really did happen. You have this, I think, just so many different memories and so many different thoughts, and there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. It's just this myriad emotions all the way across the board. Here's one thing that hit me among other things. So from the first day, this is just strictly personal on my point. From the first day he took the job, which I believe was a Good Friday in April, right?
Mm-hmm, correct.
From the first day up until whenever it was the last time that I saw Hugs, I never had a cross word. I never had a, hey, what did you say? Zero. The most accommodating, easiest to get along guy I've ever come across. Ever. So that's like the beauty of Hugs. That was like the beauty of Hugs. And that was his special quality. And so like forever I'll be grateful for that. You can't have a 16-plus year run, and Hoppy, you know this, on a day-to-day basis with the people that you have contact with. So that was awesome. And there are so many things that we'll get into here. So that, to me, that's the sad part about it. And obviously this is so emotional because I don't think there's anyone in the state of West Virginia that had more people had more emotional attachment to. And we've talked about it. We can't define what it was, but he had this intangible it that people gravitated toward.
Well, is one of us, went here, came back here, wanted to be here, had success. That's the definition of being loved in West Virginia.
Yeah, and revered. And so that to me was like he had that quality. And so there's just a bunch of emotions that go through this. So as I said, we didn't talk at all. We came in here, thanks to Taylor Kennedy for coming in on extremely short notice, and let's jump in. Hop, go right ahead.
Okay, as you said, myriad angles here. Let me start with this. WVU had two choices. The choice was either he retires or he gets fired. Those were the only choices that the university had. Yes, as I understand it, there was some suggestion, well, what if he went to rehab? That never got any traction, but I don't think there was ever any serious consideration, Brad, that this could end any way other than Huggins losing his job because of what happened previously 6 weeks ago when clearly he was given a second chance. That was the definition of a second chance, and clearly he was on thin ice. It's like, okay, you got a second chance, but you're going to have to do these certain things, and then this is the definition of not following through on that promise. Therefore, throughout yesterday, I don't think there was a big discussion as to, well, what are all the options? It was, how do we get this done as quickly as possible? Either retire, resign, or get fired.
Yeah, I think that was pretty clear. Once the police report came out, I think that if it wasn't already in that category, I think it moved to that category. And I think you can just see the timing of the last two incidents involving Bob Huggins, how the first one on the radio show took quite a bit longer to get to some sort of resolution to show that there was some discussion behind the scenes. This moved extremely quickly for the situation. So I think you're right on. I think that's not debatable. I mean, given what you've seen, given the two incidents back to back, I think that's a pretty clear answer there.
Another thing too, and this to me, I've thought a lot about this, and this is the elephant in the room, but I think it needs to be addressed. And that is, Bob Huggins has an alcohol problem. Now you say, Hoppy, how can you say that? I say that for three reasons. One is there's anecdotal evidence. Now, I don't hang with Bob Huggins. I know him, but I don't hang around with him. There is anecdotal evidence, number one, but that's not the most compelling thing. Number two is that the university has addressed that with him. The alcohol issue has been addressed by university officials with Bob Huggins, okay? Number three is that based on the criminal complaint, that's not I had 2 beers after something or I had a glass of wine. This indicates serious impairment, and the university, acted swiftly on that, and that's the primary reason why he lost his job. Okay, so you lose your job. Take out Huggins and WVU. You lost your job because of an alcohol-related incident. 2, that is the definition of an alcohol problem. You lose your job because of an alcohol-related incident. That's the definition that there's an alcohol issue here. I'll leave it at that. I don't have any other expertise, but I think that needs to be said. I'm not picking on him because I have empathy for people who have substance abuse issues or whatever the issue may be, but that needs to be said, and that is part of this equation.
Understood. You've been talking, obviously, to folks since this all happened. So, as you said, there were 2 options there. He spoke with the team last night. Obviously, according to the reports, that was very emotional, which it was.
Sure.
Which it is. I mean, because whether you want to be or not, it becomes a family. So suddenly something like this hits. And so to me, and the thought that I had, this is many of the things that I don't like, is that his career, the end of his career now becomes, unfortunately, it's these memories that people will have. It's the part that won't go away. And you hope over time, and time obviously changes a ton of things, and hopefully that will be. But as of right now, that's the thing. Like Woody Hayes, you say Woody Hayes and you say great football coach, but then it's almost like written in script. Well, he came off the sideline and he punched a guy from Clemson, Charlie Bowman. That's what ended his career. that is a hugely unfortunate part of a guy's career. That, I mean, the guy was up until yesterday, the winningest active coach in college basketball, not in the Big 12, not in college basketball, third all time in the history of the game. That is what adds to that. Just
it's
sad.
a tragic end to a great career.
Yes.
Is what it is. It's a tragic end to a great career. And I think the other thing, and I know we're going to jump around here with no chronological order necessarily, but the thing I keep coming back to is it's incredibly sad for him personally. And you're right. You hope there's some help coming for him so he can get well. That's one. But this goes from a long period in West Virginia basketball history of some continuity and consistency. Right? You knew basically what you had every year, that you were going to be in the mix, that you were going to be competitive, that you were going to be nationally relevant, as we talk a lot about. You had that for a decade plus, and now you're in this period of total chaos and flux. And I mean this on a bunch of levels. 30,000-foot level, the program's in extreme chaos right now. And never has there been a time in college sports history where that chaos can be so unsettling. And we'll get into some of that about the ability of these players to lead, the ability of these players to get extra options somewhere else. Will the NIL money that had been coming in from donors recently stick around, or was that specifically a Bob Huggins type of deal? There's a lot of day-to-day questions that come, but on a bigger picture, this has a lot of ripple effects across a lot of people in that athletic department and on that staff that suddenly now have their lives thrown into utter chaos and uncertainty because of this decision by Huggs. I mean, there's a lot of people sitting there today that don't know what's coming next for them. And I think that's sometimes what gets lost in coaching changes, whether it's things like this or universities decide to move on. The head coaches generally find their way to be okay. They've got the resources to be okay. It's everybody else connected with that program that are thrown into absolute chaos through nothing that they did, and now they're the ones that have to try and pick up the pieces, and there's a lot of people picking up the pieces this morning surrounding this.
Because of the way that this falls, this is June 18th as we record, WVU Athletic Department contracts begin at the start of their fiscal year, which is July 1. So those contracts are oftentimes on an annual renewal. And so now, according to reports, each member of that staff was informed, well, you have until July 1, and that'll be the end. You will be out of a contract. You have the chance, depending on what happens, to be rehired. But as of right now, there's no guarantee going forward. There's not a year. There's not a severance package at this point. You're done, and if you get rehired, great, you're back on. And if you don't, then you have to go find your way. And as Brad said, I mean, we're talking about double-digit numbers of people on staff. And then if you do the tertiary family members, like this thing is just a massive, massive spider web of people that were impacted by this. So that's huge.
Yeah, it is, and I really don't want to pile on here because it's bad as it can be. Well, no, it could be worse. It's bad. It could be worse, and I don't want to pile on. But as Huggins said in his statement, my recent actions do not represent the values of the university or the leadership expected in this role. So, Brad, when you talk about all the people impacted, they're impacted because of the failure of the leadership of the person in that role, which he acknowledges in the statement. So he's owning that in the statement, which he should. You know, I have this, I was thinking that, we worked on this all day yesterday. I kind of have this fantasy, and I'm imagining a Saturday in January in 2025 or 2026, and Tony, it's West Virginia and Kansas, and, the place is rocking, and it's Bob Huggins night. And Huggins comes back, and at halftime, he comes out to midcourt. There is a, older but healthier Bob Huggins, and he can see the appreciation that West Virginia fans have had for what he has done and what he's accomplished over his years. You can't do that now, and you can't do that this year, and he's not ready for it, and the fans maybe not ready for it either. But at some point, I'd like to think that happens, that there can be a moment where that can happen. We're a long way from that now, but that would be something to aspire to for his career and for the fans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you don't want these situations to end the way that this one ended. And unfortunately, I was thinking about this last night. Like in 40 years, the last 40 years here at West Virginia, so it's like say from the 80s now, there's only been really one coach whose departure went smoothly, and that was Don Nehlen. So fill in, right? So there's animosity when Rich left. There was animosity when the way Stu was treated. There was like animosity with Dana.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you go to basketball, and like there wasn't animosity with Coach Catlett. That ended like weird. Right? That was mid-February. John Beeline.
Dan Dockich.
Yeah, I mean, John was less. It was just like hurt more than, hey, no, stay.
That was more. That was more hurt.
That was more of a hurt. It wasn't a, but these things, my point to all of that is that these things very, very rarely end well. This isn't new territory. Normally don't end well.
But the Beeline.
I was just going to say part of the Beeline in my mind was two parts. He handled it really well.
Yes, he did.
He handled it as well as you've seen any coach. If you're going to leave, he addressed it head on, thanked the West Virginia fans, and moved on. He was a textbook how to handle that, number one. And number two, that was eased because you followed with Bob Huggins.
Yes. Exactly right.
If you had followed with somebody that then had no success and the thing went down, I think there would be more animosity towards John.
Exactly.
The fact that you rolled right in what was going to be a Hall of Famer, and we all knew that was going to be a Hall of Famer at some point, and you picked right up where you left off, and quite frankly, then kicked it up a notch, I think everybody could then move into thanking Coach Beeline for putting the thing back on track. Right?
Yes.
But Hugs coming in immediately after John helped ease that transition.
So you look at, John always is going to have this special place in West Virginia basketball because what he did. The team he took over was 8-20. Wow. And in the course of his time, he gets them up, great run, NCAAs, and then wins the NIT, goes to Michigan, goes to 2 Final Fours, plays in the championship game. You go like, okay, thank you.
Hands the baton off with a program that was in infinitely better shape than when he took it.
Absolutely.
To a guy that West Virginia had been trying to get.
And fans had been talking about for decades.
Yes.
Will you ever get Bob Huggins? Will Bob Huggins ever be the coach there? And then to have that happen, I think that really eased that.
And for Huggins, who had only been at K-State 1 year, to say, I want to go home, and this is the place I want to be. I mean, that was the start of the endearment of the fans, right? What do we want? What does West Virginia want?
Somebody to love you back.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Somebody to love you back.
And is not using you as a stepping stone. This is where you want to be. I'm you, you're me. I mean, all that, which is what Huggins has been.
And there was no question from that Good Friday day when he took the job that he wasn't leaving. Right. That's the other part. So if you go through the history of all of those coaches, there's been very few moments where you've known you've got the guy in place that's not leaving.
You're not nervous all the time.
You don't have to worry about that. He's not going anywhere. Now you can just focus on the games and the wins and losses.
And even when, guys, even this year, when West Virginia was struggling at times, whenever every game that they were on television, there was a moment or moments where the announcers were talking about Bob Huggins and the West Virginia program. You still had a national profile.
Absolutely.
Okay? Why? Because of Bob Huggins. Mm-hmm. And that's why this is such a monumental event. I mean, not just the event itself, but the way it happened and this downfall, this severing, which had to happen.
But to continue along that line, and again, the major issues we've addressed, now start to niche down to this particular team and the timing of this. Tony, you mentioned it. You have a guy at your program, at West Virginia's program, that's the all-time winningest active coach in college basketball. So you would have had an entire year plus, however long he would have remained, of that discussion, and you basking in that, number one. We've talked so much about the incoming class of transfer portal, by many accounts, the number one transfer portal class in the country. So I think that's the other thing that will settle in over these next few days. And as you get closer to the season and you start to see what happens with this roster, there will always be that what if that surrounds this particular group. Was this group poised for maybe one last run at a chance to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, that now the fans are deprived of that opportunity to be excited about basketball for an upcoming season?
Which leads us into the next huge question. Who is the next person that will take over as West Virginia's head basketball coach? And oddly enough, just about 8-9 days ago, Wren Baker was in this studio, and not knowing obviously anything of what was going to happen, that specific question was asked to Wren Baker as to how you handle it. And if you missed that, let's look at that right now. Here's the question from Hoppy to Wren Baker. How do you do this?
You're hired because you're expected to handle the day-to-day, the week-to-week, and also be looking ahead. So how much longer do you expect Coach Huggins to be the coach? And do you have that list in your back pocket? And are you thinking about the next coach?
I'm pretty diligent about keeping a list for every sport. And it's not the proverbial list in the AD's top drawer, but it is a spreadsheet of every year I'll have the sport program administrator go back and kind of refresh that. If our job was to open, whether coach retired, whether a coach moved on like we had in women's basketball at their own decision, whether we had to make a decision. I think you always have to be prepared. If you start that process only after you know the opening's coming, you just, especially in this recruiting environment with the portal, you're just, every day that goes by, you're opening up some liability there. So I always keep a list like that, and usually about mid-season I'll start refreshing it, because people who would have been on a list this year many of them would have gotten jobs. So that list looks different a year from now. But I try to never be caught off guard, because you just never know. Take women's basketball, for example. We had a women's basketball list. I would have never thought that we would be using that list, but that's the way that this business is. The only thing that you can do is be prepared for whatever may come.
Prescient comment. You never know, as Wren Baker said. And my understanding, guys, is that the top WV administration, they have a lot of confidence in Wren Baker. They think he's on top of it. He did a good job, I think, on filling that women's basketball position, which nobody saw coming. And now you couldn't see this coming. But if he's doing his job, and the thinking is that he is, Brad, that he's got some idea, and today he's working on that.
Yeah. Yes. The challenge on this one is timing. Right. Yeah. There's a couple challenges, and we can get into this here coming up. One, it's roster makeup that is so heavy transfers. What's their availability to leave? Can they leave? We're out of the transfer portal window. Do they get a waiver because the coach was removed? There's a lot of questions regarding that. The NIL part of this is a massive question, because anybody that Wren talks to is going to do two things. They're going to look at the success West Virginia's had in the transfer market and feel good about that. That makes it very attractive. But you've got to secure a commitment from the money that was coming in, that money remains with this program, that it wasn't just tied to Bob Huggins being the coach and Hug's ability to go out and raise money directly. I think that's a massively important question in this, and your ability to compete and attract a head coach is tied directly to the answer to that question.
Yes, I think that's a super good point, because I think sometimes folks might not realize how that dynamic works. And so there are obviously some incredibly passionate supporters of Hugs that he could call and say, hey, I need your help, and could you really make a contribution here, or can you really help us in support? Okay. So now the question becomes, do those supporters now go like, hey, I love the university, but I really loved Hugs, I'm stepping back? If you do, then you either have to go find that person that can give you that support. That's why this hire and this decision is so unbelievably important. If you put someone who does not meet the desires or does not connect with those that have that support for your NIL, it will take you back significant steps, okay? That's the unknown. You don't know, as we sit here this morning, you don't know how many, if any, of these current players on this roster are going to leave. I can guarantee you 300% that they've already received texts and phone calls.
Multiple.
This is like a feeding frenzy right now, a feeding frenzy from opposing coaches. Right now, while this was happening yesterday, I'm telling you, before Bob Huggins even resigned, coaches were calling people and saying, you let fill-in-the-blank player know that we're here. It's out there.
We're here, and we'll match his offer. I mean,
Yes.
that's the other part of the sliding scale here is the numbers that these guys may not be publicly known. They are known internally, and those players know what they have. So when fielding offers, they know what their value is. So, yeah, I think it's critical to secure that financial commitment, even if it's short term, even if those particular donors just say, hey, listen, I'm here to try and help move this thing forward. I'm still in with my current commitment, because then at least there's, again, a couple moving parts. If you secure this roster as it is, this is a really attractive job, guys. I mean, this becomes an attractive job in the best league in America with the #1 recruiting class that has come in, a high level of talent there, clearly some support in the game NIL-wise, at least short term. The coach is going to know he's going to have to work moving forward to secure that. There's a lot of things working in Wren's favor as he pitches this program to external people in what is a really weird hiring cycle. So there's going to be some candidates that are available. You can take some swings here, I think, at some people that are a little more established given what you have in place. But that stuff's all like the ground is rumbling and shaking,
Yes.
right? The earthquake hasn't happened, but man, you can hear the rumbles coming. This is not a conventional, easy search for Wren Baker.
And think of the ripple effect, because you try to pluck somebody who's of value, then another school's going, oh crap, it's June.
Oh, yeah, that's happening.
We got to find another
It's
coach.
a domino.
Yes. Now,
yeah.
if also ripple effect, I just took the positive slant to that. If you want to go the other way and a couple of these players start going and leaving, you've got a potential problem, just a number situation of bringing in a new coach and getting players that are past the transfer portal deadline to be able to come and play for you. I mean, you actually have a situation where you have to be worried about the number of players on this roster.
Correct.
There's a lot of things that are happening from last night over the next 48, 72 hours as Wren tries to piece this together. We keep saying this is a way different search than it would have been 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
And also, I want to make this point. This is a different world that we're living in this sense. As much as we criticize or get bummed out at times about NIL and about the transfer portal, the mere fact that NIL exists right now will pay huge, huge benefits and dividends to West Virginia today, more so than any other previous West Virginia head coach. And here's why. The criticism about WVU and its recruiting through the years has been the state is extremely small with 1.8 million people. You don't have a guaranteed built-in number of athletes that can come from your state that you can secure. That's always been the problem. And they can get you in the past on geography or back in the Atlantic 10 days. It's not a great league. It's not a power league. So now what's changed? You can sell the best basketball conference in the country. 1. 2, you can sell, if it can continue. NIL changes everything. NIL changes everything. Those blue blood schools, if you're matching their dollars, you could see that they'll come here.
Hold on. You just did it.
You just did it.
You just beat Kansas and Gonzaga for a recruit this offseason because of the dollars you're able to bring in. And that's why I say that's the critical piece here.
Yes.
Those donors that have given to get you to that point where you sit as of 3 days ago, are they still there?
Correct. 100% correct. So that's why, as bad as this seems right now, if you can maintain your financial commitment, you can be a player.
And that, Matt, I'm telling you guys, that would be the very first question I would ask as the agent of a coach when Wren Baker calls. Tell me the financial commitment. What you guys did this offseason was really impressive. Tell me where that stands. Was that a Bob Huggins commitment? Was that a 1-year commitment? Was that a 5-year commitment? Where does your NIL stand? That's before I ask what my client's going to make for a salary, what you're going to give me year-wise, I ask about the NIL and the commitment moving forward.
Yes, because if you don't have it, you can't compete in this league because everyone else does. Now, let's talk women's basketball real quick here. Why was that a couple things. Why was the West Virginia job interesting to Mark Kellogg, and how did West Virginia keep all 6 of the players that it had on its roster from going away? Because West Virginia has a significant, sizable commitment for women's basketball to its NIL. They have a pledge for 4 years, for the next 4 years, for their NIL that takes care of, that can put them in great, great places. That's why. That's the reason to that. And so Mark Kellogg comes in and goes, if you're giving me that and my ability to go get others, this is good. The same thing has to happen here. The same thing has to happen on the men's side. That's the unknown.
And has.
Has.
That's why you were able to get the guys you had and why West Virginia was involved with seemingly every transfer that hit the portal. You knew you had the salary cap to go get them.
For the last 2 years.
For the last 2 years, yes.
What happened to West Virginia when Huggs did not fully embrace the portal? What happened? You went, because they went conventional and everyone else was playing the new game. Well, West Virginia goes, okay, fine. So last year, who do they go get, right? You go get Stevenson, you go get Toussaint, you go get Trey Mitchell, and what happens? All of a sudden, you went like this. That's why everyone was obviously excited for this coming season, and we'll see how it all unfolds, because West Virginia got into that game. And so that's the biggest piece to all of this is, just like you said, as long as you have the NIL commitment, then you can get the horses and the thoroughbreds that you need to play in this high-level league.
And that answer will directly affect the candidates that Wren Baker is able to talk with.
Yeah.
It just simply will.
3 Guys Before the Game is brought to us by the Burdette Camping Center. They're currently offering $10,000 off on a Forest River travel trailer and toy hauler. $10,000 off. The Forest River travel trailers, known for their quality, reliability, and it gives you that unbelievable experience. So check it out. I can give you all the particulars. 13 feet of cargo space or enough to sleep 4. Raised rear ramp, patio deck, party time, quad bikes, kayaks, name it. It's $10,000 off. And at Burdette, the warranty on any vehicle that you buy, travel trailer, toy hauler, whatever it might be, lasts forever. That is forever. 3 Guys also brought to us by Comex Business Systems. Their digital phone systems competitively priced and the most efficient technology known to mankind. That means when it comes to your phone, you'll save money. They'll give you a free price quote. Doesn't matter how small, how big. From 1 to 1,000 lines, they can take care of you. Get a free price quote and so much more from the great folks, Bob and the gang at Comax Business Systems. ComaxWV.com. That's ComaxWV.com. They keep West Virginia's business data safe, secure, efficient for 25 years, plus their great remote monitoring services. They can be your IT. So the question now becomes, how long does this take? How long does this take? Because of the incredibly fragile nature of trying to keep the band together. Wren met with the team yesterday afternoon. Huggs met with the team last night. And so now communication has got to be of paramount importance for WVU's athletic department right now. The current coaches, it's crazy, right? They're told your contract may or may not be renewed on July 1. So they're on ice skates. This is similar to when Don Nealon retired. Those coaches knew that they would be potentially not sure, are they coming out back? They were going to that Music City Bowl. You guys remember that. It was the most tenuous time I had ever seen because those guys are going to this game going, I don't know if I have a job after this. Who knows? Well, Rich, and then eventually, is Rich going to keep me? Is Rich not going to keep me? It's part of the deal. It's unfortunate, but that's the part of the deal. So West Virginia has got to be communicating right now with each of these players and their representatives saying, just don't do anything quickly. Just hang on here. We're going to have something for you. It's crazy.
Well, you said, how long does it take? The answer is it cannot take long. I mean, you have to move.
No.
So you have the worst possible situation is you have to move quickly and you have to make a great choice. So
it's a tough spot to be in. And that's why I said earlier, for a lot of reasons, I feel for the people around this program that are charged with the having to take care of their own families and do what is in their best interests. And maybe that's leaving for some of them if they can get an opportunity, but yet they're trying to keep the thing together and communicate to the players that are there and do the best they can for West Virginia University, while at the same time worried about their families. At the same time, players fielding calls because opposing coaches are saying the same thing. We're saying, okay, Wren, you got to move quickly and you got to get the right guy. That's what the opposing coaches are trying to get the players to go before the new person is on board.
Absolutely.
And the new person can re-recruit the current guys, right? So the opposing schools are calling saying, hey, we need to know right now. We got to go. You got to go. Yeah, let me know here by the end of the day. So there's two competing sides colliding here, and all of those people, players and staff, are caught smack in the middle of this.
Brad, if I'm an assistant coach today at West Virginia, and there are two priorities: keeping the current players and looking out for myself. What's the first thing I'm doing? I'm looking out.
I don't know how you can't look out for yourselves, and I wouldn't blame any of them.
I wouldn't either. Like, okay, I want this guy to stay, but you know what? And your spouse is saying, I got this mortgage payment. I mean, you got to take care of yourself in this situation.
And that's why there's coaches and staff all over the country in this situation that I have great respect for, that are able to balance that and do both. And you mentioned that Music City Bowl. Those assistants in this exact situation did a great job, didn't they?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they did a great job being able to prepare that team and be ready to go, while at the same time having your future in absolute flux and chaos.
And because of that, that was a lot of the reasons that many of us thought, you're not going to win this bowl game, and they came out and won. One other nugget, this is just a little nugget, is there, because this has come up or will come up, is there is not a settlement with Coach Huggins. There's not a payout. There's not a buyout. There is a fulfillment of the contract through yesterday. Okay, so the contract, he's due a payment through yesterday. Also, the way his contract is structured, he's deferred some of his salary until retirement. So obviously he's due that, but there's no buyout or anything like that.
Again, you don't know which way Wren is going to play on this, so we'll just do this totally for speculation. Do you do an interim coach for a year that lets you reassess and have the complete open field of potential candidates? Or do you just begin the process right now and make the hire that's going to be the permanent head coach? You don't know how that is going to play out. And I think maybe the answer to that would be, I guess it's this. Firstly, can I get the person that I think long-term is going to be the successful coach that we need?
Correct.
That's the first question.
Correct.
If the answer to that is not really, but I know if I wait until the end of next season, so-and-so will be available, and that's really who I want, and then that's part of it. Or can I get an interim? Can I get an interim that's an absolute slam dunk that will take care of us and will fix this?
Well, I know what you're saying, Tony. I think it's a good argument, especially if you're operating under the assumption you can't find the person you want. But an interim, to me, feels like now you're 2 years behind.
I normally would agree with you if the world was the same way it used to be. NIL hopping, it's like a pop-up bakery. Like you just drive your trailer up and go like, open the door, we're selling it. Like it used to be that. Like when John Beeline first took this program over, he had to build that thing for 2.5, 3 years. That's no longer the case because you can go boom, boom,
especially
boom,
with that NIL money that we talked
and
about.
off you go.
I think you raise a great question, and my gut would tell me if I were doing this search, here's how I would handle it. Wren's got his list. Where do you get to on your list in terms of no's? Do numbers 1 through 4 tell you, I'd love to talk to you, but I just can't, not the right time, and you're down to number 5, and now you have to decide, I mean, 5's interesting, but I really don't want 5, but I've got some guys next year interim for this year. I think some of that depends on what feedback you get when you're out here talking to people right now.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're just trying for speed and it's a guy that you like but you don't love, I do think there's some value in interim, and that sucks for everybody involved. That sucks for players. That sucks for fans. That stinks to have to go through a year when you're not ultimately competing for a Big 12 title, which you would have been, but it may be better as the long-term solution. And again, there's just so many moving parts to this.
Well, wait a second. You said something interesting. You don't think – okay. You're assuming that a bunch of guys leave.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that if some way, somehow, this is kind of maybe like winning the lottery, if you're able to keep the band together and you're able to bring in and again, like I'm sitting here right now, do I have names? Do I have a thought? No, but like for whatever reason, when these situations happen, like in the past, like someone will get plucked and you go like, well, heck, I didn't realize that. You know what I mean? I've seen that happen too, where they bring someone in and you go like, oh, I get this, I got that. So if you're able to do that, then it could be, okay, you can have a heck of a run still this season. I know I'm asking for a lot.
That's really hard.
I'm asking for two. I'm
That's
asking for
really,
players to
really
stay in. I'm
hard.
asking for a coach that's got great credibility.
That's really hard.
Yeah,
what you're asking to do.
I know. Okay.
That's really hard.
I know. Nothing's easy. All right. Well, this obviously is a story that's going to develop quickly. We'll do our best to stay on top of it as it goes. We're here. We're available. You guys around this week? You're here?
Yes.
You're around this week. Kirchville, You're not going to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur?
No, I'm
Arctic Circle, New
here.
Zealand,
I'm here.
Iceland. Okay.
Always,
You're in.
Seems like there's always coaching news here in West Virginia.
Yeah, there is. Okay, so that'll be it. We'll be back sometime this week, and who knows? I mean, is this a 3-day, 5-day, 8-day deal? Is it longer than that? You know, that practice was scheduled for tomorrow. They were going to go to Italy in August.
You can't do that now.
And so now that whole dynamic changes. Okay. Special thanks again to Tyler County Kennedy for coming in on short notice. We are complete, episode 468 of Three Guys Before the Game. Thanks for listening. Have yourself a great Father's Day. Yeah, Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, boys. Yeah, happy Father's Day.
And to you.
Thank you. We're out. See y'all.